Okay, so I want to record your homework so that you guys are clear on what you guys have to do over the course of the next week. There is no class Thursday, it's Thanksgiving Day, all right? So you guys are, other than if you take Thanksgiving Day off, you have plenty of time to kind of work on all this stuff. Let's recap the stuff that we've talked about in class today. So you guys have to generate your 128th, 64th, 32nd, and 16th of an inch overall square footage areas. All right, understand that the 16th of an inch one fits on two different sheets. You were asked to do those all as squares. Okay, so at some point I'm gonna think about all the other stuff that has to be done today. Next thing that you were asked to do is to consider. And I'm sorry, these all have to be printed out so that you have them for reference. Okay? So, the next thing that I need you guys to do is to, on this large scale site plan that you were given in AutoCAD, okay, you are to select the position for where you're going to place your building. So you guys have been doing studies related to, you know, the different geography of the site. So now I'm asking you to pick one or two of the different geographic areas on the site and decide on where you're placing your building. Okay? That is going to link to this whole idea of how do you approach your building. Okay? Now, the position of the building on the site, Jeremy, this thing went to sleep. The position of the building on your site, right, deals with how you perceive your building in relation to the geographic features. Do you see your building as sitting at the top of the site with all the vineyards below? We've already discussed this. You need to document your thoughts on that. You need to be able to write them out. Okay? Are you looking to mostly hide your winery in the valley and, you know, put some sort of a marker that you come up to? Are you looking to put it on the steep portion of the site, the flat portion of the site, along the edge, down in the flatlands? There were a number of different sort of options, right, that this site presents as an opportunity, right, for developing a building. Now understand that the building's development is going to be related to the geographic position that you sort of select, okay? Once you have selected that position, it's going to inform the design of the building. That in turn informs how do you approach it, okay? So what I'm asking for is at 1/64th of an inch to a foot, which is the scale of this drawing, is that you, in AutoCAD or in Rhino, that you actually start to position where your building goes, and that you start to develop the actual road approach, right, and how you're going to divide up the vineyards. And you guys have already done lots of studies for that. So if one of those happens to work, then fine. If it doesn't, then, you know, just modify it. Chances are you're not going to redo all of the roads. The perimeter roads are probably going to stay as you've got them. So now take a stand on where you want to place your building.
Are you going to want to see program pieces?
We're moving towards that, okay? So that deals with your siting and your sort of site approach, okay? The next thing that I need you guys to do is you are to develop 3 partie diagrams based on reading your program document. So if you read your program document, you notice that there are 3 different people that are setting up this winery. So it's up to you to decide whether you want to express all 3 pieces of this as 3 distinct sort of elements that come together as a whole, or if you want to just define each piece, right, within a larger whole. So it's sort of up to you. I pulled out some examples of projects that kind of went in different directions. You know, one of them had, you know, 3 pieces that were distinctly separate from each other. Another one had 3 pieces that were intertwined into each other, and yet another one kind of expressed, sort of one whole that was kind of split into 2 pieces. So there's a lot of different directions. What I'm asking for is for you guys to develop an artistic partie diagram.
How do you spell that?
Partie is P-A-R-T-I. I believe it's French. Okay, so develop a artistic partie diagram. The size of the diagram is 4 by 4. It is not to be a scribbled thing that you do at the last minute. This is going to be graded upon its artistic quality and your line work and how well designed it is. All right. So the next part of this is to start to take that partie diagram and the position on the site and your approach and start to develop the building within that framework. Now, when I talk about the building within that framework, I'm asking you to take the various pieces, right, and to start to decide where those pieces go within that framework at that specific size. Now, when you're working in the computer, you're working true size and shape, right? So even though I've pointed this out as being 1/64th of an inch, when you're inside of AutoCAD, you're not working at 1/64th of an inch to a foot. You're working at true size. So what I'm asking you to do is to start to develop, right, these pieces with your partie diagrams in the location on the site where they go. Okay? Is there any questions about that? Okay. One final component that I'm going to ask you for is you all did Design 1. And in Design 1, you were given 4 different formal methods. One of them was subtraction of an overall object. Another one was aggregation and collision of multiple pieces into a larger whole. The third one was the development of a polygonal form object that in the case of what you did in class was more of a jagged element. Okay, and then the fourth one was a folded form project. So what I'm asking you to do is I'm asking you to build 3 different...
Beef and chicken? Just beef.
I'm asking you to develop 4 small models, okay? These models are going to be 4 by 4. No taller than 4 tall. So they're little, they're this big. I'm asking you to develop 4 different concept models, right, that somehow relate to your partie diagrams using the 4 techniques that you learned in Design 1. Okay? All right? Any questions about the homework? No?
So
Yes, sir.
one model for each type of method.
Yeah. So actually what I need from you guys is 4, not 3 partie diagrams, 4 partie diagrams. Okay? And so what I'm asking you to do is to meld what you learned in Design 1. Keep it simple. You don't have to make it ultra complex. It should be simple and yet artistic. Okay? And like I said, we want it to be little. So these aren't like gigantic detailed projects. Okay? Other questions? Yes, sir.
Can we use chipboard?
Absolutely. You can use whatever you want. If you're going to use chipboard, I would use that really, really, really thin chipboard. That stuff right there, because it cuts really easy. It's the equivalent of 1 ply. It's super thin. But you can use, you can use a variety of materials. The key thing to the objects is that they be crafted, not just done at the last minute to think that you're going to get your credit for it. Okay? So, all of you are to bring back this printed sheet. This sheet is never to be left at home. Okay? periodically I'm going to have Terumi checking for the darn thing to make sure that it's here. You are welcome to print to scale, right, either at 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17, the pieces that you need to kind of delineate where, you know, what the design looks like. So for example, if I'm working at this scale, right, obviously all of that stuff fits on an 8.5 by 11, no matter what shape it ends up taking, right? And so, I mean, there's no way that I can line, even if I line these things up end to end, they probably would still fit diagonally across this sheet. So you can use that with the topo lines, right, because you're going to be working on this drawing. You'll be taking the pieces and actually putting them on here. So you can print that 8.5 by 11 out of that piece, and we can set it right over top of this, and it should line right up. Okay? I also need to see where your approach is. 8.5 by 11 is a heck of a lot cheaper than printing a great big old sheet. So as long as we have this base sheet, and you guys can, you know, print a couple of 8.5 by 11s, you should be able to get everything that you need in the site. So looking at this here, right, it might be, let's say I put it at the very furthest point of the site, right there, so I might need to print, oops, might need to print 3 or 4 8.5 by 11s that I can splice together to get me to the road. Let's say my road goes this way, then this way, and finally over this way. So there's 4 sheets that I print out, and I just lay them on there, and I can now see what they look like in relation to the site. Understand, these sheets, these 8.5 by 11s that you're printing, show all of these contours. So it's easy to line them right up with it, okay? I'm doing this to try and keep your printing costs down. If you were infinitely wealthy, you could print, you can just say, screw it, I'm going to print the whole thing over again. But this keeps the cost down relatively low. All right? Questions? All right, that's it then. I will see you guys all. Have a great Thanksgiving. All right? Spend some time with your family, like maybe 20 or 30 minutes. No, just kidding. Spend some time with your families, and have a great weekend, and work hard. You guys are in the final stretch.